Hi Mandy, welcome to today's Listen.Better podcast. Really excited to have you on for today's interview. And here we are in August, I think 20 months on from the start of the pandemic. You are the founder and CEO of Tin Man that launched in 2013. So really interested to hear your story. So can you tell me about that journey? We're over nearly a decade in. Tell us a little bit and paint a picture for us.
Sure. Well, it started as a little nugget of an idea during my maternity leave, actually. I was previously MD of a big kind of global and UK agency called Citizen Relations. And I'd kind of, I suppose, had enough of big agency working, if I'm being honest. And I was thinking about other things. I think in my heart, I always knew I'd launch my own agency. I always had that thought since very, very early days. And when I went off and had my second daughter, obviously it gave me time, a bit of headspace to think about it. And then when I neared the end of the maternity leave, I was like, right, that's it. It's time to do my own thing. And I think the idea behind Tin Man was about being able to create, I suppose, really kind of award-winning work, so creative, strategic, for big brands, which was kind of my background, but with a more kind of personal feel and a more personal touch. I think in my previous roles, I'd got to the point where I felt so detached from the kind of work and the clients and kind of what we were delivering, that I didn't feel that we were doing the best we could in terms of what we were producing for clients. And I kind of wanted to get back into being really proud of the work that I was doing, and that it had a purpose and a reason, and it was actually delivering something commercially or substantially for clients. So that was kind of the start of the thought of Tin Man. So I started Tin Man myself and I think an intern, and here we are, I think nearly 9 years later, and there's over 30 of us now. So it's been an amazing journey. The ethos of the agency is very strong, and I think because I'm quite a passionate person, and I care a lot about what I do in terms of the work and how I work with clients and my staff, and that was really, I suppose, at the basis of why I wanted to create Tin Man. And I think that's kind of fed through the whole ethos, which is all around communications with heart, and that sits at the heart of everything we do. So it works through all the briefs that we get. It works with how we kind of relate to clients and how we have relationships with them, and the same with our staff. And essentially, it's all about getting people to feel something from the comms we produce. There's obviously so much marketing out there, and we're marketed to so much as consumers, that our kind of belief is that we have to get people to feel something emotionally to create some kind of impact or reaction or response from the comms that we're creating. And that's the kind of, I suppose, the idea behind the communications with heart. And that's, I suppose, what the agency is about. And it's served us well so far.
Fantastic. Well, bringing us up to date, the last 20 months, obviously it's had a huge impact on lots of sectors. How were you impacted as an agency, and how do you think you're emerging from it? And will you be doing things differently as a result?
Well, I think like all kind of small, medium, I think all agencies, at the very beginning of COVID, it was a real shock to the system in terms of the level of uncertainty and the unpredictability. And I think in the very early days, just the working from home and then the client sort of instability was a real worry. And we did have some clients that had to stop and had to pause their comms. Most of them have come back. And when we had a big travel client that obviously had to stop all comms, but they're now back and, going from strength to strength. So I think the early days was a worry. However, I have to say, that year ended up in a very good place for us. We won lots of other client business that we might not have won otherwise. We sort of extended our skills and our skill set, and we did a lot of content driven work, which we were already doing anyway. And we were actually preparing to launch our own content agency, which is called Oh My. And at the beginning of COVID, we thought, oh my God, launching an agency in the pandemic, what a nightmare. But we carried on, and actually we thought this is the best time to launch a content agency, because it was a really great way to continue to be able to market to people in lockdown and in a pandemic. And actually, oh my, have had phenomenal success in their business. They've just won a whole load of awards for best content agency and all sorts of stuff. So, it's been an amazing success story, that. So we ended 2020 actually in a very good place. So I can't complain. I would say this year has been unbelievable in terms of growth. The first sort of 6 months, we've had the best growth we've actually ever had. So again, I think that uncertainty probably made us look at everything differently and not take anything for granted. But we did have a very stable company, and I'm so grateful for those early years of stability. And we had a very, very strong, we have still a very strong senior team who worked brilliantly together and very closely in terms of just riding those hurdles, riding the kind of uncertainty, and being able to help me grow the business. And that's what happened. So I'm so proud, actually, when I look back at what we achieved over this, the last 18 months. So the first 6 months for us this year have been amazing, better than I expected.
Thanks. That's really, really clear and great clarity, and fantastic news that you've bounced back and things are looking very strong in 2021. So just thinking about yourself and your own approach to leadership, what do you think you've learned about yourself over the last decade, and have you reflected on your style of leadership, and if so, what can you tell us about how to lead effectively?
Well, God, I don't know if I've got all the answers for everybody. I mean, I think people lead in different ways, and I would say there's probably no right or wrong way to be a leader, really. I mean, people buy into people, and I think there are certain elements of being a leader that's important. I think resilience is a massive one that sits at the top of the list for anyone who wants to start their own business or lead, from the top in kind of a big way. You need a strong strength of character, I would say, and resilience, because running businesses, small or big, is not for the faint-hearted. I would definitely say that. But I suppose the leader, I think what I try to do is just be kind of real. I know that sounds really cheesy, and I don't mean it to be cheesy, but I think I'm just quite honest. I'm quite straight talking. We always describe our agencies as quite straight talking. I don't do drama and kind of PR stuff like that. It's not my thing. I'm very straight talking, direct. I want people to feel part of whatever it is we're creating. I like to take people on the journey with me. I'm quite transparent in how I run the business, and I do a lot of communication with the team on how the company's doing, both sort of financially and otherwise. I'm quite open. So I think that's really important, especially when you see, the kind of pandemic. It's taking people on that journey with you as a leader, making people feel involved and part of it. I think generally as human beings, people want to feel like they've got a purpose, or they're adding value, or they belong in some way. And I think making people understand that emotionally engages them, so that they have a sense of responsibility, and therefore they come along on that journey, and they want to succeed for themselves and for the business and for their colleagues. And it creates, I would say, a much more productive and successful vibe in a business. So I suppose that's kind of how I tend to lead. I'm not hierarchical. I learn a lot from my kind of senior team as well as they do from me. I don't have all the answers always. I'm very open with that. And, it's just having respect, mutual respect for your staff. I've always said this, your staff are basically your most important asset, and you have to train them well. You have to find your team well. So you have to spot those staff that feel like they evoke your values as a business, and that they'll go on that journey with you. So, we see it a lot when people come into the agency, even if they're from the most amazing pedigree, there's always a learning curve. And that's because we train people in a certain way. and it takes some time. And I imagine it would be the same for a Tin Man person going somewhere else. If that culture's strong and you produce a certain quality of work, your team are usually very well trained. So yeah, I think that's quite important.
And talking about culture, and I noticed you're working from home as I am, then how have you managed to retain that sense of a galvanized culture with people working remotely? What have you done tactically to try and keep that very warm, engaging, warm-hearted team?
Well, during kind of, I suppose, key pandemic, when we were all working from home for days on end, we just did, I suppose, what most agencies did. I think we did lots of communication. We did lots of kind of socials online. We did quizzes. We did all the usual stuff, drinks, cocktail making, various kind of things to just bring people together. We, from day one, the senior management team met 3 times a week to talk about the business, clients, money, finance, staff, the whole lot. Whereas previously, we probably weren't doing that when we were face to face, because we were all sitting in the business, in an office. You tend not to have so many of those meetings, but they're very, very productive if they're run properly. So, we would meet as a senior team, 3 times. We'd have company meetings regularly, coffees. We had meditation sessions. We developed our mental health program. We already had a mental health program called Hearts and Minds, but we kind of massively invested in that, both financially and time, to make sure that was kind of really all-encompassing for people. So they had places, an outlet, and it meant that they had access to sort of therapists and doctors and all sorts, if they needed them. And we also just did a lot of talking and communication. I mean, we're in communications, we need to be able to communicate, and I think actually a lot of businesses struggle with that. But fortunately, we didn't. We were fine. I mean, it does get a bit boring, and it does get a bit relentless having another virtual kind of drinks thing, or but it's just trying to keep it fresh, isn't it? It was just trying to keep people engaged through different ways. I mean, at Christmas we sent people bespoke gifts to their houses. We did a lot of surprise and delight bits like that. But essentially, it's just making sure that everyone communicates as much as possible and stays connected. I also did open the office when I could. Obviously, we managed it really carefully, but there were some people who really needed that place to work. So when it was sort of legal and we were okay to open it, we opened the office, and people used it in a very safe way, a few people at a time, and sort of built up from there. Even now, people are in the office, but we're very careful how we manage it. Everyone has to test before they come in. We have bubble, all that kind of stuff. So it's all quite well run.
Okay, and so who do you look to for your inspiration or mentors, either in your business community or on the bigger global stage? Who inspires you?
I do have quite a lot of friends and sort of ex kind of colleagues I've worked with in the business over the years. I've been doing it for so long. And a lot of us are like founders of similar types of businesses, lots of PR founders. And we have quite a close-knit group, I suppose, and we meet, well, we used to meet all the time for drinks and dinners and all sorts of, I mean, it's, now it's a bit more virtual, and I think we'll be picking that up. So, I learn and I'm inspired by them and the way they lead their businesses. But, I don't know, I get inspiration from all places. I mean, even my father's an amazing businessman, and he had run a massive business, and he's always been a real inspiration for me in terms of kind of leadership of people and commerce and things like that. So, I think inspiration comes from lots of different places. I wouldn't say I've got anybody that I look at and I go, oh my God, that's who I want to be. I don't think you can do that. You have to be yourself. You have to lead in a way that's right for you.
Okay. And can you describe your proudest moment, or some of the highlights of the last nearly decade with Tin Man? What stands out for you?
Oh gosh, there's lots. Well, I would say the success of how we've sort of ridden the wave of the pandemic has been a really proud sort of period for me. And the fact that this year, the last 6 months, we've won Best PR Agency at the CIPR Awards. We won Best Marketing Agency at the Drum Awards a couple of weeks ago. We've had some amazing kind of industry accolades as an agency. And interestingly, you know, whilst our figures are great and the numbers are good and the work's great, you know, I would say it hasn't necessarily been, you know, the award entry that you write with these amazing growth. Our growth obviously has been slower this year, or well, during the pandemic, as it has been previously. But the kind of culture and the way we've kind of worked around some of the hurdles has been obviously so impressive to judges that we've won these awards. So it's been fantastic, and that I think makes me really proud. But you know, we've done some amazing campaigns over the years. We've done stuff that I've been so proud of, whether it's work for kind of charities like, I don't know, WaterAid or Anthony Nolan, through to kind of massive campaigns for Virgin Media and Barclays. You know, there's really great, credible, quality campaigns that we've run and worked on that I'm super proud of. But I think, you know, I'm proud of the journey we've been on. We've had, every year has been, it's kind of been even better than the last, and I'm always so grateful for that. So yeah, I'm really proud of what we've created culture-wise, the talent within the team, the clients that we've got, and you know, all the accolades that we've won over the years. I think we counted up. I think we have been awarded or shortlisted for over 250 awards during our time, which, you know, it's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, proud.
Fantastic. And then looking to the future, what's the aspiration, or is it a case of staying very much in the present moment and delivering best in class award-winning campaigns?
Yeah, interesting. A bit of both, actually, because people always ask me, so what's the 5-year plan, they say. And I've never been, I mean, obviously we have a 5-year plan, but I've never been one for like, right, and this day I'm going to do this, and this year I'm going to do that. Because I just don't think life works like that. I think you have to be much more present, as you say. But we do have a plan, obviously, of sorts. I think we have to continue what we're doing. I think it will get harder as we get bigger to retain, you know, the culture and all the kind of stuff that we're so proud of. But I think we'll be fine. We'll do it. We've got plans to be able to make sure that that continues. And I think, again, it's just sort of building the leadership team to embody all those values so that it kind of extends down way beyond me. I think as a business, we are tending to grow outwards rather than upwards. So we are growing our skill set and expertise. We're quite a 360 agency now. We are earned first, but we tend to look at everything from a kind of multi-channel lens. So we have, in the last kind of 6 months, hired a head of digital and social. Obviously, we were doing lots of digital before, but we wanted somebody who's a real expert in that field. We've hired a head of corporate and media training. We've got, obviously, our content agency. We have bespoke evaluation models and people who head up the evaluation and measurement side of things. We've got a huge amount of influencer marketing experience. So we now have, again, a bespoke team who do all the influencer marketing that we do, which is quite significant within the business. I mean, we work across all of Unilever's home care brands doing just influencer marketing. So it's a big growth part of the business. So we're kind of growing across, if you like, rather than up, so that we can service clients better, essentially. So when they come to us with a comms brief, we can look at it without being restricted to just necessarily earned media. We'll tend to look at it through that lens, but then we'll look at all the kind of other touch points and how we can extend that creative thought to reach other audiences in different ways. Yeah, I think people's way of absorbing communications and media is very different, and it's changing all the time. So we have to keep up with that and move with the times. We have to be flexible and be able to reach people in different ways.
Thank you so much. That's a really comprehensive roundup of where Tim is right now. And I've really enjoyed watching your journey over the last few years, and I'm very excited to see what happens in the coming decade. So thank you so much for your time today, Mandy, and look forward to seeing you at a real life event when they come back on again.
Hopefully. Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you. Thanks. Bye-bye.